you playing?
Greetings, and welcome to What the Bleep Are You Playing? A podcast where we play a game, many times bad, and tell you why the bleep we played it. I'm real American hero Sean. I'm here with Snake Eyes Thomas, and this is Mason, and they are about to get replaced by The Rock on the next episode.
I mean, there's an upgrade. Jeez.
I mean,
kind of sucks that I had to wait until now to figure that out. But hey,
I mean, not if we're talking retaliation. You're getting replaced by Boring Rock.
Oh man, I'm getting replaced with Doom Rock.
Doom Rock had a lot more personality than Retaliation.
Doom Rock had more personality than Retaliation.
Oh god.
Anyway, we're here to talk about G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra on the PS3. If you haven't noticed, a game.
There's one of the we've played a lot of games of all time. This is one of the games.
This is indeed a game that we have played.
Yeah, I think I put it in the group chat like a couple days ago. This is going to be probably the most one of the games of all time game we've ever covered.
It's very much.
It exists.
Yeah, it just exists.
Which, with kind of the development, the reactions, and then played it. Yeah, this is a game.
It's one of those games that, like, even if I had never heard of Rise of Cobra, the movie, and then you showed me the game first, I would be like, yeah, this was a game made to push a movie.
Well, many times the game forgets that Rise of the Cobra, the movie, was a thing.
Yeah, because the most it gets from Rise of Cobra is the character likenesses, which you guys didn't get to the end. You didn't get to see Christopher Eccleston's Destro.
I've looked it up and I've watched some of the stuff.
Someone doing a bad Scottish impression, right?
Yeah.
Is it Scottish?
Yes, it's Scottish.
Scottish. Okay.
And look, it's PS3 graphics, so I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, they're awful or whatever. It's when they were really working on humans and we're trying to make things lifelike and things trying to look more and more like whatever character they are on the show, but or a movie.
It's rushed out PS3 graphics because this came out the same year as Uncharted 2.
And well, they get the likeness. You can definitely look at these characters and be like, that is who they're trying to be. But that's about as far as they get on it. You're like, I could recognize this person, but it's definitely not a clone.
It does make it really funny though that when you see Duke and it looks like Channing Tatum and you know that it's Channing Tatum and yet you hear his voice and it is like that is most definitely Roger Craig Smith's voice coming out of Channing Tatum.
And he ain't even trying.
It's definitely not
legit. The voice he went up to the voice director. It's like, hey, what do you want me to do? Your voice. Like any impression of Channing Tatum, do your voice.
Just do your voice.
We're trying to get this out by Tuesday.
Here's your script. Read it into the mic.
I mean,
Go.
I would have loved if he would have done whatever would have been Channing Tatum's voice in the unreleased Gambit movie.
Oh, man.
I'm still upset that movie never got made. Not because I think it would have been good, but because I wanted to see what the hell it would have been.
Yeah, same.
Man.
I absolutely kind of wanted to see Channing Tatum's Cajun accent. I also just kind of want to see... I love Gambit, so that would be
Gambit's
why. Gambit's a great character. I don't expect they would have done the character justice necessarily, but I definitely wanted to see it.
Couldn't have been worse than Origins.
Nope. Taylor Kitsch.
Taylor Kitsch
is definitely
good old John Carter of Mars.
Oh yeah, god!
And he was in that the one football movie. I can't remember which one.
I like how your thought with him was he was in the one football movie. I was like, oh, he was also in Battleship.
He was in Battleship.
God, he's on a roll with bad action movies. John Carter, Origins, and Battleship.
Why do you think I know him?
Look,
we're
trifecta.
not going to spend too much time on this at all because I'm just going to say the statement here and then we'll move on there. John Carter is not a bad movie.
It's not.
I haven't seen it in a while.
We'll move on from that. That's a whole other topic. That's for what the bleep are you watching.
Exactly.
Moving on.
I love John Carter.
Going back kind of to the original topic. Is this? I'm struggling to think of any games, at least before this, that tried to put in celebrity likenesses.
There was.
There were.
This is just kind of the era of the PS3 when they were just becoming more prominent. For example, the NBA or Madden franchise, NBA 2K were starting to put more and more. They were looking like it instead of just the squares.
I believe this came out the same year as Stranglehold, which did use the likeness and voice of Chow Yun-fat.
Oh, okay.
So,
The Chronicles of Riddick
Also,
obviously used Vin Diesel.
Didn't the Raimi Spider-Man games have? I
The
forgot
thing
about
is,
that.
just as the
And I
PS3 came,
thought it-
you started to actually be able to recognize the people, and it
Recognize
wasn't, even 10 years later, you can look at that and be like, that was Channing Tatum. Whereas if you look at maybe, let's say, Batman Begins on the Xbox, the PS2, and those ones, you're like, that's not necessarily Christian Bale.
That's
So
you
at
can
the
look
time when it would have been just fine.
Or you can look at the Minority Report PS2 game and be like, man, that's not Tom Cruise. I didn't even try. He looks more like Clancy Brown. Wait.
Wait a minute.
Honestly, that's probably my favorite use of a character because they didn't even try. Legit, they were just like, fuck it. Just use Clancy Brown. Just use Clancy Brown. We're not even going to try to replicate Tom Cruise.
Wow. But yeah, this game definitely is trying to look like its counterparts. They don't sound like it, and again, we looked at some of the cast on it, and it's not like it's a bad voice acting cast, but I doubt they were given tremendous amount of time to record their lines, and I doubt they were paid particularly well for it.
You said there was
sometimes
only,
it comes out.
You said there was only like one person from the actual movie that came back, right?
Who, considering the fact that I don't even remember where he is in the game and I've beaten the game, probably says how much he actually contributed.
Which
And it
was Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
yeah,
right?
it was Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Cobra Commander, who had a total of like 3 lines in the movie. So
Yeah,
Yikes.
yeah. And that JGL's performance in Rise of Cobra is one of the most phoned-in performances that ever existed. And good on JGL. Go and get that money. At the time he wasn't a huge star. He did a lot. He had done things, but nothing. He'd only done a few things. I think 500 Days of Summer had just come out, so that was
that was probably
his biggest role. I mean, he'd had a lot of smaller stuff, but chase that money. I have no problem with it. But God, that
Was it a more phoned-in performance than in Dark Knight Rises?
yes.
yes,
Damn.
he does not do much of anything in. And some of that's also just. It seems like they're like, yeah, you need to have the Cobra mask on and wiggle a little bit and say some lines.
Well, that also, again, I won't spoil G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra as if Mason cares, but that goes with how they write his character. So,
In one of the easiest to see twists coming in any movie.
well, yeah, I guess we are spoiling it. Spoilers for a over 10-year-old movie.
That has a sequel and a prequel.
That
Prequel.
are both worse
Yeah.
in every way. Yeah, let's get that out of the way right now. We were already on the topic. Fuck it. Rise of Cobra is the best G.I. Joe live-action movie, and it's not relatively close.
No, I would agree. Retaliation has sometimes better action.
See, I can't.
But it suffers from
It's boring as fuck.
yeah. That's the best way. It suffers from not being interesting.
Yikes.
And while it has a good director, he is not good at shooting action.
No, he mainly does dance movies.
Yeah, I mean, he
it's
did
John
Step
M-
Up movie.
It's John M. Chu.
Yeah,
He
Step
did-
Up.
Oh,
he
yeah.
did Crazy Rich Asians, In the
Into the-
Heights.
yeah, In the
Like
Heights.
he's a good director. He's done a lot of good stuff, and he has a great vision for films
He just-
and cinematography.
Did he do? No, I don't think that's right. For a second, I thought it was the guy who did Now You See Me Too, but I think that's someone different.
No.
I think that's someone different, but
that is
yeah.
someone different.
But that's the problem with Retaliation is the style just doesn't work. The Rock is not interesting. Bruce Willis randomly shows up.
They really, boy, look, everyone complaining about, oh, they changed the characters in Rise of Cobra. If you look at me dead in the eyes and say Retaliation is good after what they did to Lady J, you are lying through your fucking teeth.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So of the franchise, I think Thomas and I are pretty unanimous in agreeing that Rise of Cobra is the best. Retaliation is boring, and Snake Eyes we don't want to talk about
I don't.
because it
Snake Eyes is the one that we pretend doesn't exist.
Snake Eyes hurt the soul a little bit, but
Look, I promise we'll get back to the game.
no, you're fine.
I went and saw Rise of Cobra while Sean was working at the
No,
movie.
that's Snake Eyes.
Yeah, Snake Eyes, my bad. I tried to replace it with a good movie. Well, good, quote unquote.
A better movie.
Yeah, better. I walked into the theater to watch Snake Eyes while Sean was working at the theater. First off, it was dead. There was like no one there.
Yeah, I remember Snake Eyes didn't do that well.
I walked out, and Sean was like, "How did you enjoy it?" And I just looked at him with this look like he had just shot my dog. Like,
Yeah. So, the good movie in the franchise, Rise of Cobra, the movie was directed by Steven Sommers. We will be doing more of his movie games based on his movies later when we do Van Helsing.
and it will definitely be covering the Mummy.
And we'll probably cover the Mummy games in some capacity. So the guy just knows how to make entertaining movies. So Rise of Cobra, yeah, it's not a great movie. It's flawed, but it's entertaining as hell. And look, it's basically Star Wars.
You know, the way
Its beats are very similar to Star Wars, especially the third act.
Yeah,
and
very, very much.
The way that you're describing it makes it less surprising that this is the video game tie-in that we got. Because the way that you're describing it makes me go, yeah, this video game tie-in feels exactly like the type of video game tie-in we would get for a movie like this.
Yep.
Yeah.
The game was released in 2009 in August. It was developed by Double Helix Games. Well, at least the PS2, PS3, PSP, Xbox 360, and Wii versions were developed by Double Helix Games.
A lot
And
of
then
ports.
Backbone Entertainment did the DS version.
I believe Backbone Entertainment was the same people who made the DS versions of X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yes, I believe so.
Spider-Man, Shattered Dimension.
They'd done
There was a DS version of Origins?
Yeah.
Yikes.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they've done a lot of tie-in games as well. Both these studios did a lot of tie-in games.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head what Double Helix has done. Again, I forgot to take notes for this one. I apologize.
You're fine.
It's fine.
So the game,
ironically, it's my game, and I forgot to take notes for this one.
the game came out in 2009. It was not received well.
I could imagine.
Critics
Critics
kind of panned it. You know,
I think the highest rating was IGN. They gave it a 5.8.
That
yes,
still
the
seems
IGN gave the main console 5.8. Now, it did give the
That still
DS a
seems a little
7.1.
Oh, what?
Yeah, the DS got a 7.1.
And the low was XPlay giving the game a 1 out of 5, saying G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra is the new gold standard for lazy and uninspired cash-in license game. It could perhaps be argued that developers didn't have much to work with, given the source material, but that doesn't help the unfortunate consumer who ends up stuck with this junkyard dog of a game in his collection.
Wow.
Which is just a brutal review. Now, after playing it a bit, and we'll get back and talk about the developer here in a little while, but after playing it a bit, I can see why it would be panned. I can see why it would like that. But also, I can see where there's a lot of good in this game. And at the end of we're playing it, I realized the game was a multiplayer game, or could be two-player co-op mode. And if you sit down and play it in co-op mode, as with a lot of games around this time that aren't good, but co-op mode can make the game a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of that shared misery type thing.
It's that, okay, we're working together and we're doing these sort of things, and it's a way to make something that is... I don't think the game by itself is as egregiously bad. It does feel kind of lazily developed in parts, but
Yeah.
Well, I don't even want to say necessarily lazily, more like quickly developed.
Yeah, but at the same time, yeah, I will agree with you that it does feel like a rush job, and it does kind of feel lazily developed. But at the same time, I could imagine after watching, even though I haven't seen this movie, but this is just all from inference. I could imagine after watching this movie and then playing this game, getting pretty much what I expected out of a game based on this movie.
That's fair.
It's like you're not gonna get the last word and like great level design and all that sort of stuff with a game based off of this movie.
Yeah.
This is very much meant to be sort of that party game, pop it in with your friends, kill a couple hours kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So,
and as it's a shooter, a third-person shooter kind of game. They describe it as shoot 'em up, third-person shooter, and action. And I think with better level design, the one-player game might be a little more entertaining if they put less on like trying to like solve little puzzles in it and just more of just like just blast things.
I think because I think you described it earlier as like an edgier Lego game.
Yeah,
and that's really that really does kind of
that is really what it feels. That is really what it feels like. It is a Lego game, but it's trying hard to be that sort of. I don't want to say it's trying hard, but it's basically a Lego game. Just kind of suck the charm out of it.
This is the Shadow the Hedgehog of Lego games.
Can you see all of me? Walk into the mystery.
So, on the development side of things, as I said, it was developed by Double Helix Games.
Which is kind of a neat title for a development studio.
Oh my god.
So,
did they do GeForce?
Double Helix Games? No.
Okay.
No, if they did, they may be later. So Double Helix does technically still exist. It's just now, it was acquired by Amazon. And integrated into Amazon Game Studios in 2014.
So they haven't done shit.
It's its own new thing now.
Yeah.
I can literally list off the games they made. Their first game in 2008 was Silent Hill Homecoming.
Oh!
So, then they made G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra.
So this is their second game.
Then they made Front Mission Evolved. Then they made Green Lantern Rise of the Manhunters.
It was a Green Lantern game?
Then
hold on. Was it based on the movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, okay.
Kind of.
Okay, real quick history on the Green Lantern Rise of the Manhunters game that everyone wanted when they clicked on the fucking G.I. Joe episode.
Surprise.
If you aren't coming to our podcast expecting amazing tangents into anything and everything, then you've come to the wrong podcast. Thank you, and please stay.
Please stay. I'll love you forever. Green Lantern Rise of the Manhunters was made very quickly as a tie-in for the movie, but the reason that they used robots as the main enemies is because this was also using aspects or design problem. What the hell is it called? They were using parts from
like models.
Yes, models, parts, all that stuff from a canceled
Assets?
Justice League. Assets from a canceled Justice League fighting game.
Oh.
That was going to be based on the George Miller Justice League movie.
The one that never came out.
Yeah, but like you said, that one fell through, so the game fell through, so they just took the assets, shoved it into the Green Lantern game, and there you go. That's why it happened.
That's wild.
Well, I one day I'm gonna have to sit down and actually replay Green Lantern Rise of the Manhunters. I don't remember hating it.
I remember
liking it, but also I didn't play enough of it to really get a full idea.
Look, of the superhero games that came out in 2011 based on movies, because there's a surprising amount. There's 3. It's in the middle.
Yeah.
It's not as good as Captain America Super Soldier, but I'll play it before Thor God of Thunder.
Fair enough. After they finished Green Lantern, they then made Battleship.
Yikes.
Oh, no.
Yikes and a half.
And then they made Killer Instinct Season 1 for the Xbox One. And in 2014, they made Strider and UFOs Love Cows.
They made fucking Killer Instinct?
They did.
Talk about a turnaround. Going straight from Battleship to one of the most highly regarded fighting games of the past generation.
Yep.
What the fuck?
How much did they actually work on it? Like, who did they have to pay off to get their names on the
Well, Amazon started paying them. So.
Okay, well, that explains it.
But yeah, so... And some of that is also maybe getting their roots, figuring out what they were going to be good at, because all of those games are kind of different. There's not one that's like, it's not one like we've seen like, I see where they're pulling from to make this game or doing this. They kind of did a lot of different games until they found something that hit. On the development side of things, though, as I said, the DS version had quite a bit higher reviews, and that's because it is not it is more of a top-down arcade-style shooter, which reuses assets from the finished but unreleased Gauntlet for the DS.
Which I think several games actually used assets from that.
And
weird.
Why is this the second time this episode we brought up unused assets from?
Because we're doing weird games from the 2000s, so there's a lot.
By the way, Rise of Manhunter is now on the list.
Huzzah!
But yeah, Because that's what you said while you were playing it, is that if the camera was a bit higher, like a top-down perspective, that the game might have been a bit funner, and that's what the DS version did.
If they had leaned more into like arcade, because with the co-op, with the controls that you have for this game, it feels like it should be an arcade game, but a lot of times the rest of the game doesn't necessarily feel like an arcade game. Like it doesn't feel like I'm going and putting a quarter in and this is why I'm going to be playing this game. Or, 5 quarters, for inflation. But
a whole ass dollar, baby.
But if it had leaned more into the arcade fun, which the DS seems like that's more what it did, I think there might have been more fun to it. We're only a few episodes past of playing Hydro Thunder, and that is as arcade as it gets. So,
yeah. Literally an arcade game to start off with.
So not maybe leaning into that sort of style, because the game and I think this is a common theme that we talk about a lot in these games that we've played so far. There's a good idea here. There's something here. There's just something here. But they did this, but they did, they didn't lean enough into this. We talk about a lot. And unlike, say, I think WWE, where, it's still a fine game, All-Star, where it's still a fine game, but I'm like, man, I wish it was a little more of this. This game...
I'm kidding, no.
This game is...
I'm kidding. I don't
want to say this game is frustrating, because it just feels very basic, I think, is the thing. It feels very, very basic, when it could have been not necessarily more complex, but more well-rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this very much feels like a game where they just kind of threw stuff in there to make it a passable game. To make it to launch day.
They're unlockable characters. You can play all the Joes, You
can play as Joes that aren't in the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, several Joes that aren't in the movie, because the only Joes that are really in the movie are Duke, he's the lead guy, Channing Tatum. Mm-hmm. Scarlet, the red-haired chick. Snake Eyes, Ripcord. Then there's a couple that are heavy duty. Heavy duty's in. Then there's a couple that aren't playable but are still in this game as helpers, like Breaker and General Hawk. Mm-hmm. Dennis Quaid. And that's basically the only major Joes in the movie. Mm-hmm. But here they have people like Backburner, Shipwreck, Commanda, I believe is his name. Yeah, they have a couple Joes in here that aren't from the movie, and I actually really appreciate it.
And do any of them show up in Retaliation? No?
Look.
Retaliation likes to kill the Joes.
In Retaliation, all the Joes die except Rock, Roadblock is his name in the movie, Lady J, and Flint. Mm-hmm. There's the only Joes that survive.
Channing Tatum's in the beginning and they kill him.
Did everybody working on Retaliation just hate G.I. Joe?
Yes, because everybody
the fan reaction was really bad towards the first movie, so they tried to course correct and
it maybe corrected a little too hard.
Yeah. Well, for example, this is not uncommon. For example, a franchise I love, Prince of Persia. Sands of Time is, which we are going to be doing on the podcast, is one of my all-time favorite games. It's number 3 on my top 5. It's my all-time favorite game. I love the game so much. But it didn't sell well. So the second game, they course-corrected. They made it edgier. They added rock music. They added blood. They got that M rating. And it's not a better game. It's an okay game, but a lot of the good things about Sands of Time was gone. The charms of it were gone because they tried to sell to a different audience or appease certain fanboys, and those people didn't show up either. So, and that's the thing, is anytime you are bending over to appease a certain subset of a fan base, you're usually going to end up alienating most of the fan base.
Yeah, if you try to appeal to a certain aspect of the fan base, there's a large chance that they won't care, and an even larger chance that you're going to alienate the people who actually liked what you did in the part that you're trying to retcon Rise of Skywalker.
Because what's the point of going back and reevaluating things if you already alienated everyone else from the first one? Why are they going to come back for the other one?
Yep.
What's the point?
And again, going back to the G.I. Joe topic, You can be someone like me who actually did like Rise of Cobra. To be fair, I was like 12, but someone who really
I was
liked
older and I still liked it. And I sat with a lot of coworkers working at a theater still at that point, and the vast majority of us enjoyed the movie. Like all of us talked about it. And people come in and ask people leaving the theaters down there enjoyed the movie. Now I had a few friends who were big G.I. Joe fans who absolutely hated the dancer from Step Up got to be Duke. But in hindsight now, because of Channing Tatum, like has put quite a career, behind him at this point, and beyond it. So like now, if you were announcing a G.I. Joe movie and Channing Tatum was casting it, everyone was like, oh yeah, he's good, But at the time, the perception and things like that.
Look, genuinely, I think that Channing Tatum was a really good choice for Duke. Because I love Duke. Duke is I really like Duke. He's one of my favorite G.I. Joe characters. He's not an interesting character. He's generic leader man.
Yeah.
But I think Channing Tatum can play generic leader man pretty well if he's given the chance.
Do you think G.I. Joe's going to get like a Andrew Garfield Spider-Man level reappraisal?
I don't think, look,
not.
I think, could we have seen a lot of them trying to do things if Snake Eyes had been good? Yes. But the problem is
Snake Eyes wasn't good.
Their third attempt to try to jettison to kick off the G.I. Joe verse. I think Rise of Cobra still is the highest grossing. Retaliation, I think, had a bigger opening weekend, but I think Rise of Cobra made more overall.
I think Rise of Cobra did make more.
But regardless, they're both very close. And then Snake Eyes bombed.
Snake Eyes bombed
hard.
It was shit.
We'll see. And Retaliation didn't get a game tie-in, did it?
It didn't.
No.
I was looking at.
I didn't think it did.
No.
Speaking of like
the last. Okay, this was the last G.I. Joe game until 2020.
That's
when Operation Blackout came out.
That's wild to me, considering I know that they're completely different now on kind of the scope, the landscape that is of entertainment. But it's wild to me how many Transformer games we've gotten in the last 20 plus years, when G.I. Joe and Transformers were pretty similar audiences, when the original shows and toys were coming out.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe was probably bigger, too.
Yeah. And, again, this is possibly an unpopular opinion. I don't hate Transformers at all. I like Transformers. I prefer G.I. Joe. And I don't know why. I guess because I have more of a nostalgic attachment to G.I. Joe. But, yeah. I mean, this is better than... Is this better than all the Bayformer movies? Is Rise of Cobra better than all the Bayformer movies?
It's more fun.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's what I'd put it. It's more fun. I don't know if it's necessarily a better made movie than especially 1 and 3 Transformers, but... and we'll get more onto later when we talk about Transformers games, when we play Transformers games, but would you say that this game is better than any of the tie-in Transformer games?
I've never played any of the Transformer games.
Considering that I've only played 2 of the tie-in Transformers games, and one of them I literally fell asleep on the second level. To be fair, that might be more to the fact that I had gotten like 2 hours of sleep the night before, but still.
Semantics aren't important, Bob.
playing a Transformers tie-in game probably didn't help much.
Yeah, so
Probably not.
To my overall point is I'm just really surprised, considering the Call of Duty world that we live in, the amount of games, the Call of Duty comes out and it's huge and all the things. You figure that someone would try to use G.I. Joe to copy that.
Yeah, but there could also
or
be...
even using Fortnite elements as a model. These popular shooting arena-based games. You feel like you could make something out of the G.I. Joe franchise that feels like a pretty easy money if you know.
And I mean, like, I don't know how well Operation Blackout sold. It probably didn't sell well because people hate G.I. Joe for some reason. But not really, but that's how it feels. Anyway, I don't know how Operation Blackout sold, but it's a pretty decent game. Like, it's pretty solid. Mm-hmm. I know there are some people who are like, oh, it's trash because it's not a high-budget AAA game. I'm like, it wasn't priced as one. I mean, it was close. It was $50, but that's still not AAA high-budget price. So, or $60 if you're a whore about the deluxe edition.
That is kind of weird though. That like people don't tend to look back at G.I. Joe as in the same way that they do Transformers, even though they're both very much cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with Thomas and a couple other people. We were talking about it, and that they were animated in the same studios. They were at the same time. Voice actors a lot of times would finish reading one and walk over to the other and read for the other.
Wow.
They shared a lot of the same sort of things. They had animated movies released back to back. And because of the fan reaction to Transformers the movie, because they kill Optimus Prime in the beginning.
Oh, that's right.
And people were upset at that in the G.I. Joe movie there is dialogue added to the movie. Because Duke is also supposed to die in this movie. That basically is like, he's not dead, he's in a coma.
And it's like ADR added, like you never see anyone's mouth move.
Yeah.
like straight up, you can tell he was supposed to die. Cobra Commander, I think, throws like this snake spear at him, and it pierces his heart. Blood spews out. He falls into Scarlet's arms, and then you hear an ADR line from Scarlet. He's in a coma, and it's like, no, he's dead. He's dead.
Sure.
But they were trying to avoid the backlash that was...
Is Tony Stark in a coma too?
I don't
Possibly.
know. Give it a few years in the MCU. I don't trust it anymore. Anyway.
And a few $1 million to Robert Downey Jr.'s bank account. But that was how big G.I. Joe was. Now, Transformers is going to not necessarily have to deal with current events necessarily to be how maybe the opinion is, whereas G.I. Joe, a lot of its popularity depends on the opinion of the United States military. And if it is more favorable, a lot of times G.I. Joe was more popular as it is less favorable or seen more as a recruitment tool or things like that. Now again, G.I. Joe really wasn't a recruitment tool. It was to sell toys. Now, you could argue if those toys were to give you a popular feeling of military.
Did the toys come first?
Yeah,
the toys came first.
Yes. So basically, Hasbro had a bunch of toys, and they basically went to the animation studio and basically like, we need TV shows based on this to sell these toys, and that's where Transformers and G.I. Joe came from.
And look, I know that's a popular argument. Oh, G.I. Joe's a recruitment tool for the military. What fucking military has ninjas? What fucking part of the U.S. military has ninjas? I'm sorry.
That's a very fair argument.
Again, it can be used, but there are so many. Call of Duty is probably more in this day and age more of a recruitment tool than anything that ever G.I. Joe would ever be, because it's more stylized.
Yeah, G.I. Joe, like I literally just said, there's ninjas. Mm-hmm. There's a dude with a metal face. There's two dudes with metal faces. In fact, one of the Joes literally has a parrot following him 24/7. This isn't a U.S. military recruitment tool.
I would sign up for the U.S. military immediately if I got a free parrot.
If you got a parrot.
Nothing all of the U.S. military listening to us, you can get Mason by doing this.
I was kidding.
Literally in the mail the next day. Free parrot when you when you sign up for the U.S. Army.
My goodness. Man. I mean, but the element of kind of one of the struggles of the movies, and then I think even in this game, is I know that even the show, but how faceless Cobra the army feels at times. And in a game, you could get away with faceless waves fighting and things like that. But there are a lot of times wherein in like the old show and the movie, you feel the villains.
Yeah, and I mean like the thing is that G.I. Joe has had so many like imaginings, and the problem is a lot of them kind of write Cobra Commander. I mean, the big one is the 80s one where they write Cobra Commander as kind of the sniveling villain, like all 80s villains were. I'll get you next time, Joes, or whatever.
Yeah, it's him and Megatron.
Kids.
Yeah, but other G.I. Joe interpretations actually write him to be this really competent threat. Mm-hmm. So, like, it all kind of depends on that. And I don't know which one is necessarily better, but both kind of give this I'm trying to bring this back to the PS3 game. Both of them kind of give Cobra a face, give Joe's an enemy to fight. This game really doesn't, because Cobra Commander is not in there.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I felt while playing it, is A, it isn't really following the movie, besides just having the characters. So I feel a little disconnected while playing it, and if maybe we had a little more, you could feel the threat from the beginning.
Yeah, sorry.
I think maybe there'd be a little more connection in at least the single player mode. In the co-op, cool, we're running around and shooting things with friends together. But in the single player, for me to like sit down and keep playing the game, the story just feels very missing.
Because the story's trying to be like the 80s cartoon, where it's just the Cobras are being dicks, go stop them. But at least do something like Borderlands, where Handsome Jack is shit talking you the whole time. Let Cobra Commander do that, because that'd be hilarious. Like, he's just shit talking the Joes the whole time.
Instead of having what this game gives you, which is the same little snippets of dialogue from the bad guys as you go in and shoot them. Yeah. They all start repeating the same phrases,
and it does not take long.
And then they melt.
And then they don't even melt; they like evaporate.
Yeah. Well, I actually like that, because that does kind of tie.
I like that they didn't explain it. I enjoyed the
explanation,
because in video games they're gonna disappear and things like that. You move through all that. It's very funny that they found a good way to explain why the bad guys are disappearing after you kill them.
Even if it's just nanites.
I mean,
whatever.
To be fair, that's actually the explanation in the movie, because. There's a surprisingly brutal scene for a PG-13 movie where nanites just eat this dude's face. So it's like, hey, they took.
I mean, look, it's from Stephen Sommers, who did the scarabs in Mummy.
That's right,
which is also PG-13. So
the moral of the story is Stephen Sommers can just get away with stuff.
A little bit. The other thing in the game that is kind of cool is the Yo-Jo power-up.
Yeah, the what is it called? The accelerator.
Yeah,
suits.
accelerator armor. It does look cool. The armor does look cool, even if it's kind of generic. But it adds fun for a power-up where you feel invincible. Which is, again, if they leaned into the arcadeness, I think this would even have felt even more intense as you did these sort of things.
My only issue with the accelerator suits is that they all look the same on whichever character you pick, and they all do the same things on whichever character you pick. I wish that they would do something different with each character. Like if you're playing a Snake Eyes, for example, and you use the accelerator suits, you get a massive sword.
Or maybe the katana gets built into his arm or something.
Yeah,
and
Mason's wanting this game to become hella anime all of a sudden. Mech suits and swords.
I mean. There is a G.I. Joe anime style thing, G.I. Joe Resolute, which is actually very good.
It is very good.
It's on YouTube for free.
Oh, nice.
So is G.I. Joe Renegades, which is, in my opinion, the best G.I. Joe show. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but it's really good.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's... I gotta stop tangenting for G.I. Joe stuff, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. The G.I. Joe episode being tangented to G.I. Joe stuff? No way. I could talk about the PSP again if you'd like me to.
I'm good, thank you. Renegades has probably the best setup for a G.I. Joe show, because like Rise of Cobra, it only has a select few Joes. It has Duke, Scarlet, Roadblock, Tunnel Rat, and Snake Eyes. But in this show, Cobra is not this evil terrorist organization. It's a medicine company. It's a pharmaceutical company, like Umbrella from Resident Evil. So they're doing secret bad guy shit behind the scenes. So the Joes find out about it, but Cobra frames it as they're attacking them. So these Joes become public enemy number one, hence Renegades.
I like it.
Renegades is so fucking good.
Honestly, would be a good way. That'd be a good story for a game.
Yeah, which no. Blackout didn't do anything like that. I don't know where I was going.
I really don't have a whole lot more to say about the game, in all honesty.
This is probably been one of our most tangenty episodes, and that's because the game.
There's not a lot to say about it. I don't think the game is as egregiously bad as the reviews gave it, but also there's not a lot that stuck out to me while playing the game, aside from, God, I wish this was more arcadey.
The one interesting thing I think we can get out of talking about this game is that we now have a metric for how just sort of there the game is. However long we spend not talking about the game is how much meh the game is.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say we have a scale, like on the end of we always talk about the game and it's good. We have SA2. On the opposite end of we always talk about the game and it's bad. We have Beatdown. And in the middle we never talk about the game. It's G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra.
Yeah. Of all the games we've played, this is one of them.
This is a game,
Yeah.
all right.
But
And I mean, like,
did
I can't think of anything else.
not a whole lot, because while they do have a lot of other characters to play,
I mean, the only difference is really
a lot of them are just reskins.
I mean, they have different weapons. Like Shipwrecked has a shotgun. Backburner, I believe is his name, has like a grenade launcher.
Heavy Duty's machine gun. It was so much like that was arcade. That I was like, oh, I want.
Yeah, Heavy. I noticed you really got into playing as Heavy Duty.
I very much enjoyed playing as Heavy Duty. I did find a problem with the characters is you have to, in the game, locate the characters.
Yeah.
Then have enough battle coins or battle points or whatever to then buy the characters.
Yeah.
And part of me just feels like that wasn't great development. Like, choose one or the other. Locate and they're unlocked, or have them in a store where you're just unlocking them with battle points.
Yeah, especially because they start getting really expensive. Like Snake Eyes requires like 9 coins, and you're like, holy shit, that's like 2 levels you need to like perfect in order to get that. That's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah. I also, while playing it, I know Thomas mentioned this while playing it, while you do kind of auto lock on to whatever target, just having a reticle would have been nice from just a development.
Yeah.
Especially like, I think you could have done like what a lot of PS2 games did and give you a lock-on button that makes the reticle pop up. I think that would have been good.
I think so too.
Especially because like in like say 2-player mode, the L1 button does jack shit.
Yeah.
Like, because that's your switch character button in single-player mode. But in 2-player mode, that does jack shit.
Yeah.
So.
Just some of the controls just kind of bland. Also, just some of the UI, the menu and everything. Like you're in there and then it goes to the menu and it looks ugly.
Yeah.
And that's maybe just an aesthetic thing. But I'm like, I get that maybe you're trying to get this for all these systems. And you're trying to get it out fast, but the menu's just ugly.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with another problem I do have with the game. And one of the problems I have with Rise of Cobra itself, the aesthetic is boring as hell.
Oh, man.
The problem with Rise of Cobra's aesthetic, and this affects the game as well, is that it tries really hard to go full, like, actual military. Like, they're all in black Kevlar and camo and all that shit. And I'm like, no, in the original series, Duke just wore, like, a green shirt. Like,
Yeah.
and, like, cargo pants.
And some, camo cargo pants.
Yeah. Scarlet's probably the closest because she did wear, like, the Black Widow suit. Actually, no, she didn't. I'm fucking lying. In the original series, she had like this tan vest. Snake Eyes is obviously the closest, but it's kind of hard to fuck it up.
Yeah,
unless your
and
name is Snake Eyes 2021.
And the Snake Eyes 2021 learned this. If you mess up Snake Eyes, you're gonna hear about it.
Yeah.
How do you... Sorry, I'm going on it. How do you fuck up Snake Eyes that bad? Literally,
he's just ninja with sword.
There's 2 things about his character. He doesn't fucking talk, and he's horribly scarred. Those are 2 things about his character, and you fuck up both. He doesn't talk. He talks throughout the whole movie, and he's not horribly scarred at all by the end. How do you fuck that up so bad?
He also is not a very good ninja in the movie.
He's not a good ninja, and he's not a good person.
It's like it's like the worst adaptation of a character since Deadpool in Origins.
Nah, I'd say it's worse than Deadpool.
I think it is, because even
Deadpool in Origins is bad. It's like horrendous, but it's so bad that if I like blur my eyes like I'm drunk, I can just pretend.
Because here's the thing, Deadpool,
movie.
yes, when they the weapon Deadpool thing they make at the end,
Weapon Deadpool.
because he is supposed to be kind of like the whatever they're trying to call.
I think it is actually called Weapon Deadpool.
It is all that. But the first half, Wade Wilson, while not super contra, isn't like this egregious left turn of the character. It's only when he shows up at the end of the movie that it's the egregious left turn.
Egregious left
Whereas Snake Eyes is from the get-go is an egregious left turn of the character.
Yikes.
And if they could maybe spend time making him, like, if you could make him charming or interesting or anything, I think you'd be okay with some of the changes. But he's not interesting.
You got motherfucking Henry Golding, this attractive-ass, charming-ass dude, and you make him a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Like, in the whole movie. I should not walk out of a Snake Eyes movie and say that his rival, Storm Shadow, is the run and the right. I should never fucking say that.
Yep.
There's also the fact that they completely changed the origin and reason those two hate each other.
It's very
that's
weird.
weird.
It's very weird, and
Yeah, I don't even remember what the reason is. Because the reason in the comics is actually really interesting. In the comic... I'm on a tangent!
Have at it.
I'm
Woo!
sorry! I'm
I
sorry.
mean, at least it's a G.I. Joe tangent.
Yeah, in the comics, Snake Eyes is American, which he is in the movie too. But yeah, he's an American, but he goes to Japan and starts to learn all this stuff after he gets scarred. So Storm Shadow hates Snake Eyes for that reason, because he thinks that this is a American who's basically tainting this Japanese legacy.
fucking weeb.
Basically, yeah, he hates Snake Eyes because he's a fucking weeb. But you know what? Snake Eyes is the coolest goddamn weeb ever, and I'll die on that hill.
But yeah, good thing we didn't get a Snake Eyes game.
I would have, honestly, if it goes by X-Men Origins Wolverine logic, it would have been better.
It's possible. But we would have had to talk more about Snake Eyes. So, to transition wonderfully, on this podcast, we like to ask two major questions of each game we play. The first one is, how does this game hold up?
No.
Uh,
No. It just
So-
doesn't.
it's a 5 out of 10 for me.
It's just average, and a lot of it. Like, I don't think anything in this game is like didn't hold up. Like, I think graphically it's fine. Whatever, the gameplay is still, it works. It's all these sort of things. So like it holds up. It's just at the time and now it's all just kind of boring and bland.
Yeah, it's
And so like
nothing. Look,
Yeah.
I didn't pick this episode because I thought, oh, this would be a fun game to talk about. I picked it because I wanted to talk about G.I. Joe.
you know what? Sometimes
enough.
that's all that matters. But
Like, my thing with, like, how asking about how this game has hold up, this is a PS3 game we're talking about. The Last of Us came out on the PS3.
I mean, yeah, but
The
like
Last
5
of
years
Us.
after this.
yeah, and this is an early PS3, and graphically is fine. Like, because it's not meant to be a, the way the style and everything is not meant to be.
It's not a AAA game.
It's also a game that's clearly being made for the Wii, the 360, the PS2. It's at the
Yeah.
end of the PS2 and PS3 cycle, and the PSP. So they're going to port it all over to different things.
Yeah.
So, like,
and all those
graphically, I'm not surprised where they ended up.
Yeah, and all those versions play basically exactly the same. The DS version, like we brought up earlier, plays different, but all those versions play exactly the same. So, you know what? I just realized maybe that's a reason why you can't control the camera. Because the damn PSP doesn't have another fucking analog stick.
Yeah, probably.
and,
I think
neither does the Wii. So,
I think a lot
yeah.
of it is the co-op, though. I think a lot of it is because co-op modes you don't want to, because you don't want each person to be, unless it's a split screen. So if it's a one screen, you're never going to be able to control the camera if a co-op exists, because
yeah.
then you'd have both people fighting over the camera. But yeah, as I said, nothing is egregious in this game, but also nothing really sticks out.
And-
This is a game.
And yeah, that's the best way. It's not I want to cry bad, but it's not like, yes, all this in my face. at once.
It's the Wonder Bread of games.
Bread.
It's Wonder Bread, and then the G.I. Joe license is like peanut butter.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine, but you can eat so much more.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not. It's generic brand. It's
Yeah, not
it's
even like-
generic
yeah,
peanut butter.
not even-
It's great value bread.
Yeah, it's great value bread and great value peanut butter. It's like you don't got Skippy or Jeff. No, you got great value.
How many analogies can we create for this one game?
Fuck, I want peanut butter now. That's what I got from it.
Our second major question that we like to ask is: would this game deserve a reimagining or a remake in a modern setting?
I'm gonna twist my answer a little bit, and it's I wouldn't like to see a reimagining of a G.I. Joe game in this style, but I would like to see a reimagining of a Contra game in this style. I think Contra could actually really benefit from a style like this.
Interesting.
But better.
Mason coming out with the weird answers to questions.
The secret third option. I would enjoy playing a game like this, but it's Contra.
You'd love Rogue Corps.
Well, except it's good.
Good.
Except
version.
it was
Yeah,
good.
No.
But that one was not.
I get what you're saying.
I think kind of a theme that has been the last bunch of episodes is for this question has consistently been, no, I don't want a remake or a reimagining. I just want more in this franchise.
Right.
And kind of that's my thing of G.I. Joe is I would like to play more G.I. Joe games. Yeah. I'd like more games that have all the characters that are co-op. That is all awesome. And maybe you do just want to follow this game or whatever, but there's very little that I take away from this game aside from, a fun co-op with character game with G.I. Joe would be really awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, the last G.I. Joe game was Operation Blackout, and before that it was this. There was a 11-year gap between G.I. Joe games.
Wow.
And I don't want another one of those. Because I like G.I. Joe, I do. It's another one of my favorite franchises. But it's one of those things where it's just not as big as it was, and I really want other stuff from it. Because Blackout's good. I like Blackout, but it doesn't have nearly the selection of characters this game does. It's got 12 playable characters, but in that game you play as both Joes and Cobra.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 6 Joes and 6 Cobras, and the selection's fine, but it's like Duke, Scarlet, Roadblock, Lady J, Snake Eyes, and the odd pick is Sci-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't go into the Cobra side, mostly because I can't remember them all. But, yeah, and it's sort of, that's cool, but where's the other kind of cool characters? Where's Shipwrecked and his parrot? Where's Backburner? Where's Kamaduru, whatever the fuck his name is? There's just, G.I. Joe is such a mountain of characters. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, again, bringing up Transformers. There's such a mountain of characters to use in that franchise.
Oh, yeah.
And they always go back to the same ones. And I like the same ones. I like Optimus Prime. I like Duke. I like Bumblebee. I like Snake Eyes. But there's so many other cool characters you could use. Transformers, for the love of God, use Cliffjumper. He's right there.
I know I mentioned this, I think, a couple days ago we were talking. But this came out not that long after the X-Men games on the PlayStation 2. And I do feel like some of the style was trying to copy that. And I think that's not about a top-down action RPG or action shooting game like this sort of thing really could work with the characters. You just have to really work on making the characters what's driving it and not the story. Like, make the characters interesting. They're Borderlands-esque in some of the ways the characters are.
I mean, like, you don't even have to make a super serious story because G.I. Joe's never been like, uber serious. Just make the characters, like, funny. Like, shit. I knew I should have taken notes. There was one actually really funny interaction late in the game that I forgot about. Doggone it. And it's going to bother me now.
I did not, the limited interactions I saw the first few levels, not a whole lot. But yeah, but also considering this movie it's based on is the funniest of the group. Some of it's unintentional humor.
Yeah, but some of
Dennis Quaid just saying Joe's is hilarious.
Yeah.
But for credit's sake, Marlon Wayans was in this in the movie.
These movies have weird casts.
It's a very weird cast.
Yeah, he was Ripcord.
Yeah.
And he's still probably the best black representation in the G.I. Joe movies.
And
no, I guess The Rock counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heavy Duty. Never mind, I'm lying through my fucking...
But I think if I had to put a bow on all of this, would to be that, like a lot of the G.I. Joe franchise that has come in the last 20 years, in film specifically, it's just another missed opportunity to really reignite something that honestly could have a passionate and big fan base behind it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, because G.I. Joe fans are passionate. There. There's an entire Twitter page I follow that is just talking about old G.I. Joe toys. And it's cool to see, but the fact of the matter is, like, we're starving here, all right? We're kind of starving for content. The last G.I. Joe movie was Snake Eyes. Nobody liked it. The last G.I. Joe game was Operation Blackout. And the last G.I. Joe show was Renegades in 2013. Give me something.
If you do want something, I saw it just looking at G.I. Joe earlier on my phone. Amazon is working on a show.
Oh.
Well, who knows?
I mean, Amazon...
They're throwing money at it, who knows?
They did Invincible. I like Invincible.
But yeah, that is G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra on the PS3.
Tangent the episode.
A little bit. But what do you guys think? Did you like the game? Or do you have other things you want to tell us about? Or suggestions?
Do you have any thoughts
recommendations
on this G.I. Joe game at
or
all?
any games we've talked about, or that you want us to? Because you can send an email to bleepyouplaying@gmail.com. That's bleepyouplaying@gmail.com. And send us your opinions, your thoughts, your recommendations, and let us know what you think.
Man, that sounds so official.
I know.
Do you have any thoughts on G.I. Joe in general? Because please, God, I need someone to talk to about
Would you
this
like
shit.
to be Thomas's pen pal? Because
G.I. Joe
pen pal.
exclusively.
But also continue to find us on whatever podcasting app. If you're on Apple iTunes, type some nice words and give us that 5 stars. If you're on Spotify, I know there's like a click button that like rate or whatever or something like that exists. Amazon might have something. Wherever you are, let us know what you're thinking and give us them 5 stars. And
tell us why Retaliation is the best G.I. Joe movie, and I'll block you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Are we
Tell
just
us
like
why
building?
Snake Eyes is the
Are we
best.
just building a?
Okay, no, then I'll actually.
We've created somebody who just wants to fight Thomas for all of Thomas's opinions.
There's going to be one Snake Eyes Shadow fan out there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna kick them in the dick.
So on that note,
there's gonna be one guy whose like opinions are all opposite of mine, and I'm gonna challenge him to a fight, and I'm gonna walk in, he's gonna be like Lou Ferrigno style motherfucker, and I'm just gonna die immediately.
so thank you all for listening. We'll be back with another episode next time.
Get good, you slut.